that I need this, but like I said, I'm taping this, and for the other 32 people who registered and didn't show up.
But not all of them
Or
are
stuck in traffic or whatever, but
100%
I'm going to introduce our moderator, even though he's not here. You have to, folks, you have to have a sense of humor. It's a really important part of life. Because Myron means the best, and he called me and said, start without me, but if he slides in after, you won't know who he is. So I'm going to introduce him. Myron Kostick is a commercial account manager with RBC Royal Bank and has been working in financial services for 38 years. He's working closely, I have braces too on top of it all. He's working closely with a number of clients in the Edmonton region, and he focuses highly on franchising, the franchising sector and industry. So he'll be sliding in here in about 5 minutes. And I'm going to go through our lovely panelists. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in on this horrible day. And seriously, trust me, there were more people. But we're going to start with Branko. Branko Culo. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Branko took the NAIT marketing program and finished his program in 2009. He's been franchising with Employment Express, though, since 2008. It's a top 4 recruiting and headhunting firm in North America and an 11th worldwide with over 280,000 competitors. And I believe that because I worked in that industry before. Express has over 800 offices located in Canada, the US, and South Africa. So we're really happy to have Branko here. He has been owner of, so he has 2 offices in Edmonton, and they work with over 350 to 400 companies and place 4,000 people on average per year. Wow, that's a lot. Next, we have Zenon. And you know what I forgot to do, Zenon, is I forgot to check how to pronounce your last name. Yarmuch. So Zenon is currently an owner-manager at Fountain Tire Collingwood. He went to NAIT from 2002 to 2004 in the business finance program, and then again in 2009 for the first year automotive services technician. Zenon started in the automotive industry in 2002, and after hard work and perseverance, purchased his first store with his brother Corey in 2011. That's the Commonwealth store. And in 2013, they purchased their second store in Collingwood. So we're happy to have you. And then Roman, I've known since about there. His son and my son played hockey together. And Roman attended NAIT from 2010 to 2000, and it's Przybyla, sorry. 2010 to 2012 with a focus on marketing. He worked in the automotive sales and leasing industry for 3 years, socked away a bunch of money, learned a lot about professional sales and customer service, and then at the end of his journey there decided he wanted to invest in franchising. His father's been involved in franchises, both with, I think, Subway and Panago for many years, for over 20 years, and they were going to look at a different franchise model together, but decided an opportunity came along with Panago, and in 2015, he decided to invest and join an established Panago group of locations. He is now oversees 4 locations, totally overseeing all the operations, correct? So we're going to start with me. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I did not prepare to be a moderator, but here we are. So some people think franchising is an easy road to success, but every road in franchising is different. All models are different. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you can, we'll start with question 1. If you can share with us how you became involved in your franchise business opportunity, including the steps that took place until the business was actually opened, purchased, running. I think that's going to be an easy one for you, sure. Roman.
Thanks, Cecile. So yeah, like you were saying in the intro, I actually joined a group of stores through family, through my father. And I can tell you a little bit about how he got in, and it isn't easy. You start off, on your own, and there's a lot of trial and error in the beginning. I know for him there was, with staffing issues, that sort of thing. The reason that I I'm fortunate to have joined through him, and I invested money, but without that help, it's tough to get financing on your own if you don't have much equity, if you don't have much cash. It's tough to get loans without those things, right? So typically to get into our business, you need at least the initial investment's about $560,000. There's also a $25,000 franchise fee. You have to have about $200,000, liquid cash that you bring to the table, so free and clear of debt. So I was able to get in. I bought a 15% share of one store, and that was my first investment, and then started making money off that, and then buying more shares. So it's not easy in the beginning. And every franchise model is different. With the food business, it's tough. There's a lot of competition. The one thing that I always say about it is people got to eat, right? So if you're with a good brand, I was just saying to these gentlemen here, if the franchise sucks, you suck with them. If the franchise is good, if you work hard and you follow their system, you will have success with them. So in the beginning, it's all about choosing the right franchise, something that fits your skills, your life, and something you're passionate about and you enjoy doing. Because if you don't like it, don't do it, especially when it usually requires about 7 days a week, long hours, 60-hour weeks sometimes. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I got in, it wasn't as difficult as it would have been had I not had an established group of stores to buy into, because without that, it's tough for someone of my age and with limited equity to get in without at least solid business partners and backing. So, yeah.
Is this on or no?
You're good.
Am I good?
Nope. We like to,
Am I good?
there you go.
Okay. Right there. So I started working at Fountain Tire in 2004 with my uncle. He wanted to start another franchise, so my brother bought in with him, and we worked for 7 years with him. We found that he didn't have the same business model as us, so we wanted to branch off and start our own location. We looked at the OK Tire franchise first. We found the support structure wasn't as good with them. They wanted to just sell us a franchise and here you go, and didn't really give us any support at all. So we connected with Fountain Tire, which we were currently working with, but we were working at an associate store, which is 100% owned, and we didn't have the contacts within the Fountain Tire organization. So when they reached out saying there was a new store starting up in the area, we contacted them and then started negotiations with them on a location. There were about 4 or 5 locations that we looked at, and the expansion team was very good. They want to make sure it's viable and you're going to make money. So we went through the process. It took about a year and a half, I think, before we found the Commonwealth location, which was awesome. It was a perfect location. It used to be an automotive shop, but they were closing down. So we started up with Fountain Tire and we bought in there. The buy-in was very low because it was a new store. So to start out, it's only $50,000 for a greenfield store, they call it. Once you purchase the assets, that assets go on your bank statement, there are your liabilities, and then you have to pay that off over the course of the term as you work. But that store, when we started out, it took 3 years before we started pulling money out, and it wouldn't have happened without the support from Fountain Tire. The real estate expansion team brought a lot to the table where we wouldn't have had that if we started just any old franchise, and it helped with our uncle's training from the first location to learn how to run a business. We just didn't know the financial side, and that's what we learned from the expansion team.
Yeah, well, we had hired a broker to help us find a business. So I had come from the oil and gas industry. My partner had been an entrepreneur his entire life in the ski wear and ski line. He had saw that the writing was on the wall. Winters were now getting shorter. People were buying last jackets earlier, and inventory was harder to sell, and you were left with it at the end of the year. So there's about 3 businesses that were identified through the broker. And as we kind of did our due diligence on each one, we really liked the express model. So as much as we were vetting them, they were vetting us. So we had to go down and do a big presentation to the executive team there. They have something what they call Discovery Days, where we went and participated at one of their big, international conferences for the year, where we got to see what sort of awards are being handed out, meet with other franchisees from across Canada, the U.S., and so that was really informative that way from our point. And then ultimately we pulled the trigger. And so as far as kind of, I'll give you I'm not going to break down the cost for you, but if you want to open up an office, you're going to be about between $240 and $250. That's including your overhead, your rent, your leasing, your staff. Just to get operational up and going is about $250. But no, we've really enjoyed the training and support that we've got on a continuous basis, and I think we'll address some of those questions later on.
Myron?
Yes.
Next.
Sorry I'm late.
As you can see, there's a lot of people that make it. So we're on question 2. We
Okay.
just finished 1.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I introduced you already.
Okay, perfect. All right, sorry I'm late due to traffic, and there's an accident there in Yellowhead, so we're in question 3. Sorry I missed the first part of it. Or 2, sorry, okay. I think maybe due to time, what we'll do is, who answered the first question? All 3? You did? Okay, I think what we'll do, maybe to get through all 7 questions, I'll kind of rotate, and then if you got something to add, just to make sure we get done by 12:50. So we'll go with, sorry, your first name was?
Zenon.
Zenon, okay. Can you please let us know the level and ongoing support of the franchisor to help grow your business and operations, as well as your business expectations of your franchisor?
Yeah, we have operational support. So what they do is they rate the stores with benchmarks, and if you're falling below on the benchmarks, you can contact our operations, and they'll help you support you to get to the level you need to be at. Now we have monthly meetings too, which we share experiences amongst all the stores, and that's how we grow and get better. I'd say we always have support when it's needed. Yeah.
So if you, as far as growing your business, if there was other opportunities for stores, would they contact you, or would you have to be proactive to contact them?
Well, we have 2 locations already, so I was looking at possibly a 3rd for one of my assistant managers. I wanted to train him. He's in the drive program they have right now, where we train our assistants to come up. We learn all of the policies, procedures that we learned throughout our program, and then they take an AIM advancement in management program, and then they look for a store after. So he doesn't have the money to purchase a location, so I was looking at possibly working with him in the next couple of years so he can get a location also.
Good stuff. On the far side, anything you'd like to add to that, please?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important. Some of the franchise systems out there offer you kind of turnkey operation, but then they're kind of hands-off afterwards. So make sure you're getting consistent follow-up. Make sure that they have, a franchisee rep. For us, it's a corporate developer that we have that continuously follows up with your progress and helps with the individual training, as well as structuring what the organizational structure might be. So as you continue to grow your operation, that they're there to help you plan what that would be like and what the responsibilities and kind of duties could be of people to grow up into the company as well. I think to provide that ongoing training is very important, right? Where systems are continuously changing, especially now with the way the younger generations are finding out about your business and choosing your business as a point to go and become a customer. They should be consistent R&D, and that message should be getting out to you on how to improve and how to keep up with changing market demands and competitiveness levels.
Oh, yeah. Good. Ann, would you like to add anything?
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, for our business, we have a business development manager from our corporate head office. She's local. She is a phone call away at all times. She does come in and do audits of the locations 3 times a year. 2 of them are surprise audits, and one of them is it's not a surprise, but it's a more thorough all-day audit. Those are very helpful, as they are a bit frustrating, as you can imagine, but they're helpful because it gives you a clear view of how your store is running, and it's always a learning experience. It's not if you're doing things wrong, it's how can we improve. But the support is great. It's like if you don't have that, it's tough. And I haven't gone through not having it, so that is the whole point of a franchise. And it doesn't work without. Basically, the way I look at it is the franchisor and the franchisee are in business together. We're partners, right? So both partners have to be putting in their fair share.
All right, good stuff. We'll go on to question 3. If your goal is to continue to grow your franchising business, please explain what steps that you would take for a new store startup as well as for acquiring an existing one. Either an asset purchase or a share purchase are typically the 2 options involved. And would you stay within the same franchise banner, or would you potentially move to another banner to allow you to reach your business goals? How about the far side this time?
Yeah, I would stay within the Express banner. I mean, we have such a powerful business model, and you know, we work with publicly traded companies, large enterprises, institutions. NAIT's actually a client of ours, so you know, I definitely wouldn't move out of the Express model. When you look at what type of, if you're buying an existing business, if you're doing a share purchase, you have to look at what liabilities are on the sheet, what vendor contracts they already have established, because that could come back to bite you, right? So I would highly encourage you to, you know, form a relationship with an accounting firm or an individual accountant, someone that you can trust to help guide you through that, because you know that's where their expertise come into play. When you're looking at growth strategies, I think it's important to see if you want to grow, you know, making kind of lateral move and purchasing additional locations, or if you want to grow vertically. You know, we're at a situation where there's other Express territories that we could buy, but there's so much market share that we don't have yet that we want. You know, our growth is vertical. Too many people can make the mistake of thinking that we're going to grow our profits by having more locations. That's not necessarily the case. There hits a balancing point there where it starts eating away at your profit margins. So unless you're going to do some increases there or really do some strategic structuring, that could really come to hurt you, and especially if you hit a recession like what we had, you know, from in the fourth quarter of 2014 to 2017, essentially. You know, that extra overhead could really hurt you and put you in a situation where you're not going to get the financing you need to continue operations if your sales decline. So when you're looking at expanding, look at your dollars. Do you have the right people to expand with? Because you're not going to expand with one leader in the group. You need multiple leaders that you can have help you with that transition. Do you have the capital? Right? So can you finance most of it, or get strong financing in place where if there is a recession, you're going to weather that storm? And do you have the time, right? Because again, you're one person. So if you don't have enough leaders in your organization, taking on more locations, that falls on you, right? So looking at hiring people, you know, it's great to have doers who are going to meet all your activity objectives, but make sure you're hiring leaders too that could potentially hire a franchise with you, partner with you down the road.
Yeah, I can't see myself ever branching off from Fountain Tire. We have the support structure is so good. There's very low risk, fairly inexpensive to buy in, and the potential to earn more money in our one location, like each is, I think, better to work just that way instead of expanding too fast and end up just losing money if you're stretched too thin.
Yeah, I wouldn't, at least for the next 5 years, change banners. I've made a 5-year, I like to look at it as 5-year plans. I'll reassess after 5 years, but I will be committing to the Panago brand for 5 years. I'll do a quick 30-year franchise journey that I'll tell you about that my partners went through. It's a growth and then a downsizing. They started with Subway in 1988. They started with one store. They had 5-year plans as well, that every 5 years they'd reassess, and then if the fad or the trend was not the same with that brand, they would go into another food franchise. In 1996, after having a few Subway stores, 1, then 2, then 3, they got into Panago. They sold off the Subway stores, started with 1 Panago, then 2 a year later, then the first one was Collingwood, then in Heritage, then they opened one on White Avenue in 2000. 2002, they opened one in Riverbend, Terwilliger. And every time that this happens, we have basically, you know, there's a neighborhood you know, 20,000 households, and this is your territory, right? This is your trade area. Then the franchisor will decide, okay, we're opening a new store in Riverbend, right? So that we're going to take away 10,000 households from this area. You have no choice. Would you like to open the store or not? So we've played that game over many years, and that's how you grow. That's how they grew with Panago. And a lot of it is you're at the mercy of the franchisor. They make the decisions. We developed a group of stores of 6 locations as of this past summer. And with the economy the way it is, and we'll get into succession plan questions later, we decided that we're going to start selling off some of our stores and restructuring the company. We had managers at each store were equity partners, so we allowed the managers running the stores to buy in, so they have a stake in the business. But with falling sales and things like that, we had to reassess what we were doing. The growth that we had built, our corporate, you know, our corporate structure of our companies had stopped. We had to reassess, you know, the whole corporate structure. And we've sold 2 out of the 6 stores so far. We have 1 more up for sale, and we're keeping 3. And then that's going to allow me an easier time to, over the next few years, buy out my partners, because they're in their 50s and 60s and they want to get out of it now. So that's kind of a 30-year journey of growth and restructuring that our company's seen.
Good stuff. Some good backgrounds there and good strategies and goals. We'll go on to question 4. This is around your business advisory team. And this is something in the bank I really encourage all business owners to have a look at. Your business advisory team, basically your external accountant, your lawyer, anybody that's professional working for you to help you with your business. So around that, I just could ask you to please share with us the importance of working with your business advisory team and insurance agent, brokers, all the other ones I just mentioned at the time of your business startup, and then right up to current date as you make changes in your corporate structure. We'll start here.
Business advisory team. Well, based on the last few years of being in the franchise business, when it comes to you know, how we're structuring our companies, the accountant, our CA, or I guess it's CPA now, he helps a lot with developing share structures and things like that. You know, the advantages of setting up a holding company or not, the tax implications, that sort of thing. I personally don't have a holding company right now, but I'm in the process of talking to my accountant about setting one up, if it'll be beneficial based on the amount of shares of the business I own. And honestly, I'm not an expert. I rely on him to explain it, to help me make a decision. But that's obviously an important part of being in business, is you need professionals to guide you. Our silent business partner is a corporate lawyer. He helps us a lot, you know, with in-house, you know, decisions in terms of selling stores, and he negotiates with our corporate head office. He gets us concessions, which is really nice, you know, royalty breaks, things like that, protections when new stores open. You know, that's another big help in our business journey. Insurance was one of them. The franchisor, Panago head office, they recommend insurance companies out of BC that we use for, you know, property insurance. It also protects the franchisor. If something happens to us, it protects that they're not going to get brought into it. So they do help with that. They help with financing through TD Bank. One of the issues that happens when, even if you're going into business with a franchise, is, for example, we've gone to ATB, Alberta Treasury Branch, to get financing, and they look at us as like a mom and pop operation, even though we're not. They don't treat us like a franchise. So by going through the TD, you know, special arrangement that our franchisor has made, we're able to get better financing through them. So it's difficult, right? That there's that you need that support, you need that advisory. That's the whole point of the franchise model. Yeah, I think that's all I have on that.
Yeah, with Fountain Tire, it's a very simple system. We pay program fees. It's fairly expensive, but we have accountants, we have a legal team, finance, everything, HR. So we don't need to outsource those people. We have trained professionals right at our head office that specialize in our industry, not every industry. So it makes it really simple to work with our franchise structure and system.
So just to add to that, would you deem your business, your bank account manager part of your business advisory
They're
team?
everything.
Yeah, which is important. Your
Yeah.
insurance agent,
Yeah.
any professional people.
Yeah, well, you know, many of you might think that you don't start building those relationships until you have a tangible business to bring to them, but start developing those relationships early. The more they know about how you got there and know you as an individual and the struggles along the way, the better they are to help you. Make sure you're aligning with a firm or an individual who has access to other resources, right? So even though you're approaching them for maybe external accounting needs, that they're putting you with the right insurance people to help you plan for some tax strategies. You know, that's something that recently our accounting firm did for us, and very grateful for that, and we're pursuing that. And have regular meetings throughout the year just to touch base on what they're seeing on their end as far as any government or regulation changes around taxation, and also what's changing in your business, because you might have had a plan at the beginning of the year, forecasting for the rest of the year, and that might change. So keeping them involved with what's going on in your business is very important. And then don't be afraid to change if down the road, you know, much like any other relationship, if it begins not to give you the return you're looking for, or you're not getting the value that you're looking for, or they're not helping you grow your business because they should be growing your business, helping you get there, then look for somebody else who can, and hold them accountable. None of us are professionals on accounting or anything legal, right? I don't profess to that at all, but what I do understand is when someone's got my back and when someone's trying to think creatively outside of the box and not template me because I'm one of 200 clients that they're trying to squeeze in and then, you know, bill me out per minute for. So make sure you're managing those relationships and hold them accountable for getting you results.
Yeah, what I advise a lot of my clients is right up front, your business advisory team, your external accountant, your lawyer is so critical to setting it up because it can save you a lot of headaches and taxes down the road when it comes time to exit. And that's part of the succession plan. We'll get them in as your exit strategies and stuff. Okay, we'll go on to item 5. I'm going to change the order here a little bit. Business and succession planning. Explain, and also exit strategy while we're just talking about that. Explain the importance of this process for all franchisee business owners, why it's so important, and where you're kind of at with it right now.
Yeah, well, you know, my business partner and I just bought out our other 2 partners in 2016, which was probably the worst time to do that, but because the purchase value was based on the highest earnings of the company and not the lowest when we took over. So anyways, another story for another day. But you know, as far as if you do have if you go in with partners, make sure you have a clear plan and outline all the potential outcomes and have something formally in agreement, because if you don't do that from the get-go, you're going to run into some really bad trouble. That could cost you a business and also the relationships that you've had with those people. You know, you might think that, hey, I myself might look at myself and I say, hey, I'm 38. I'm not retiring for the next 20 years. But if I get sick tomorrow, who's going to run my business? If I can't be in my business anymore operationally, who's going to take that over for me? And that's where, when you do hire people, let them know what the potentials are. Especially in a franchise system, let them know, hey, I can help you get a franchise one day. Obviously, you're going to have to show me that, you know, you're deserving of that conversation, but let them know that's an opportunity, because you should be hiring people who could one day take over your business or partner with you. And it goes back to me saying, don't just hire doers, hire leaders, because you never know when you're going to need that support in your life. And it also helps you to grow additionally through other people and other avenues. When you look at selling your business, it's not like a sell and you're done. One of the big things that was brought up at one of our meetings last week when I was in headquarters in Oklahoma City was phantom stock. So it's a way of giving people ownership and a percentage of the pie without actually giving away your franchise, right? And at that point where they build up enough stock, they can use that in a variety of ways to buy you if that's what you decide. But succession planning and looking at exit strategies doesn't mean you're giving away your asset that you've worked hard to develop. You can still maintain ownership and get a residual income from that.
Okay, thanks, Branko. Zenon, anything on that?
Yeah, so with Fountain Tire, it's a unique franchise structure. So when we sell out, they actually buy it back from us. So we don't have to worry about finding somebody to buy the store. So if we got sick or something, they would bring in somebody to run the store and then potentially buy the store after, but they would give us the money to buy out the store after. So you don't have to stress out about, hey, I want to retire in 5 years and I can't find somebody to buy my business. Yeah.
That's great support. Right. Roman, anything?
Sure, yeah. Succession, I like what you said about empowering people in your organization and showing them that it's not just a job, that there are opportunities. Part of the reason that we restructured our group of stores was there was a young gentleman who was working for my father since he was 16, and over 20 years he worked his way up the company and became co-owner of 6 locations, starting as a cook, as a 16-year-old. So that was the original succession plan for my old business partners, old in terms of age. But he decided this past year that he didn't want to be in the business anymore. And so part of the restructuring and selling stores, it was for the purpose of also buying him out. So now that succession plan hasn't gone the way it should have gone, because he was the one that was supposed to buy out the old guys, I come in and now I have to think about my succession plan. And part of it has been talking to my young staff, 20-year-old guy who works for me, 23-year-old lady who works for me, that they both love the work they do. And I'm telling them the same thing that my father told this kid, 20 years ago, is that you can work your way up in this business, and you can, we can help you with an easier path to becoming a franchise owner, because it's tough to do on your own, right? So and you always got to be thinking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, and obviously right now too, because it is important. You got to, at some point, I'm going to get older. I need to get out of this business, or at least take a step back. I can't, the pizza business is a young guy's business. It's long hours, and you have to have a lot of energy. And at a certain point, I'm not going to have that anymore. So you got to find those young people that you're going to pass on the operations to.
Okay, thanks, Roman. That was good. Some good replies. Question 6, sharing best practices. And I'm going to throw a little curve in, just a little one. I think part of that is key success factors within your banner, in your industry. So sharing best practices on how to be a top franchisee within your banner and the key success factors around that. Zenon, we'll start with you, please.
That's a tough one. I think the reason, like our one store would be one of the top stores in the company. I'd say it's successful because of productivity, and we've created a pay structure with incentive-based pay. So people work harder so they can make more. So, I mean, you got to dangle the carrot, I think, a little bit and give people opportunity to do better. And we do a lot of cross-training in the store. So our tire guy will learn the mechanical stuff, our mechanics will learn the front counter, and it just gives everybody the opportunity to grow in the company. And I think they all want it. They want the store to do well, and we all work as a team very well.
We'll go over to Branko, please.
Well, I think if you're buying a franchise because you think you're going to be able to enjoy cocktails and Mazaland on the beach, and while other people run your business for you, think about another idea, right? The franchises are successful because they're owner-operated, the owners are involved. Initially, the success of your franchise is on you, right? No one's going to do it for you. You have to choose to do it. So whether, in our business, we're heavily a sales-focused organization. We're in the recruitment of people, but it really comes down to sales. We sell ourselves, and activity breeds activity. And, it comes down to a numbers game. So if you're not willing to produce the activity required to be successful, then, be honest with yourself and get out and choose something different. And, we get to a point where you have to take advantage of the good years that you have and expand on people. Don't make the decision to go ahead and buy a bigger house and a bigger car now. Right? If you're at 5 years or under and you're experiencing some good years in your business, reinvest that, hire additional people. The old saying is, hire 2, you get 1, because if you invest just in one person and you're riding on that person's success and they're carrying a lot of the weight of your organization for you, chances are they're not going to stick around because they're going to be overstressed and overworked, and they're going to realize that you have the better deal. They're gone and you're back to, you missed that component now. So always make sure you have 2 people for one position. And when it comes to compensation and structure, pay them, pay them 10 and have them do the work at 12. Right, so you're paying them well, but you're also having them work harder. So don't bring in people to your organization who are just focused on what they're making annually and not what they can contribute to your organization.
All right, good stuff.
We actually do have what we call them best practices meetings once a year. All the franchisees in the city of Edmonton for Panago are invited to come, share things operationally that are working for them, that aren't working for them. It's a good way to network with the other franchisees, just because one of the things is we're all on the same team as franchisees, but at least in our business, we're also competing a lot of the time over locations when new locations come up, things like that, right? So there's competition where, a lot of time we're selling stores to one another, but at the same time, we're all on the same team, right? We're all working for the same brand. So one of the things I find interesting about the franchise model that I've noticed is you have a bunch of entrepreneurial business owners like us, but we have to work under the franchise umbrella, right? And there is friction a lot of the time, at least for our business, because we want to do things our way. That's kind of the entrepreneurial way of doing things, but you have to follow the system, and that's the system that you purchased, right? So that's one thing I've noticed, being raised in a franchise family and being in the franchise business myself now. That's one of the tough things for us sometimes is we feel that maybe our way's better, but we might be wrong, or we just have to suck it up and follow the system. So
good. Thanks, Roman. One of the things that I usually share with my clients is kind of you're only as good as the people around you. So if you're an entrepreneur running a franchise, any kind of business owner, and I think we touched on that quite a bit, is empowering people and getting the right people around you, because if you get the right people around you, there's opportunities for them, and it'll create success for you. I'm going to go on to bank expectations. I know some of you have touched, you mentioned TD as a program, and all the banks kind of tie in with the larger national franchise programs. There's 1,100 banners operating in Canada right now, and Panago, Fountain Tire, and Express are just 2 or 3 of those. So it's huge, and it's a big impact on the economy. So the expectations, what are your expectations you're looking for from your bank? I know you've touched on them a little more, but if we could just focus in a little more. Your relationship with your business account manager for your banking, lending services, partnership, advice, helping you meet your business goals, and helping you grow your business. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit before, but the bank is definitely someone that you have to have a very good relationship with. My business partner handles most of our financing, so I'm not privy to all the details in terms of dealing with our banking manager, but there are some loan programs, the SBL loan, the Small Business Loan Program, which is kind of a federally backed program. I don't know all the details. I don't know if you guys could elaborate on those ones if you use them, but that is something that is offered through the lending institutions. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say on this one. Maybe I'll pass it along to you guys.
With us, we don't deal directly with the bank, so our CFO would negotiate the best rates for us and the financing for our companies. So we don't really have to worry too much on the bank side. That's all dealt with for us, which is great. We have trained professionals doing it for us.
So the relationship would be with your group controller?
With our CFO and
right.
TD, yeah.
So yeah, okay, a little bit different.
Yeah, from our perspective, I find my best partner on our advisory team is our accounting manager, right, who looks after helping us with our financial planning in that regard. The banks, they're great, and they love you even more if your books are solid. But sometimes when things become tight, they might not always be your best option, where you have to start getting creative. And it's not because they don't want to help you; it's just that they have their own policies and metrics that they have to go by too, right? So sometimes, in 2016, that drove us to other sources of lending. where we were paying higher interest rates, but it allowed us to continue with our business model and get that purchase agreement settled. So I would encourage you to make sure you develop multiple connections. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket, just because they can't always, even if they want to help you, they can't always. So that'd be my advice. My expectation, like I had mentioned before, is whatever your business goals are, they should be helping you achieve those goals, right? Whether it's your job operationally to put that through to practice, but it's their job to help plant ideas in your mind about how you can grow and expand your business and tell you what's feasible and what makes sense based on what your business is doing today and what it's projected to do tomorrow.
All right. I'll just add a little bit. The CSBFL program, which is the Canada Small Business Federal Loan, we use it quite a bit for startup, franchises, and business. So it's still available for equipment and leasehold improvements. The leasehold improvements is a nice option. You can't use it for share purchases though, so it has to be an asset acquisition purchase. And right now it's maximum 350,000. There's talk about increasing that because really 350,000 for equipment and leaseholds doesn't get you too far. But it's a government guarantee. The interest rates and all that are a little higher than the standard, but it does give you access to kind of get you going startup. And on the real estate side of it, they go up to $1 million. So you could have up to $1,350,000. That just went up a couple of years ago from 500. So as the stuff grows. So I would think that overall, your banker's probably classified as a partner in your operations, part of your business advisory team again. And I'm just curious, with the business plans, what can you guys share with us? Is a business plan important and ongoing, and then would it be a living document?
Yeah, definitely. That is one thing actually I was going to mention that I have had the opportunity to go through was for our new store that we built in 2015 in Windermere. I was part of developing a business plan to give to our lending institution, because they need to see what they're shelling out a big amount of money. Even though we have a group of, at that time already 5 locations, profitable locations, they still wanted to see, what is the market? What are you targeting, right? Like how many households? What are your forecasts? Who's involved in this business? The partners. What is each person's role? What is your plan in terms of sales over the next 1, 3, 5 years? It's very important. Drafting business plans. 8 years ago in class is something that I actually did in business. So it is something that's very important if you are deciding to go into your own business.
Yeah, with Fountain Tire, we don't have to do a business plan. They do that for us, which is awesome. But we follow it, exactly. But we have to do, the only thing we had to do is we had to do the budgeting. So we had to forecast our numbers for the first year, and then the next year we'd budget on and kind of forecast our growth year to year. But you don't have to worry about the business planning side, which is very awesome.
So that budgeting process, is that valuable from your aspect as being your title as an associate, or?
I mean, I guess it would be pretty important because you want to follow your monthly like wages and that. You want to make sure you're following into where you should be.
Expense control.
Expense control, yeah, exactly. I'd say it's fairly important. We don't really. It's not for us. It's not that as important as other franchises, though. When we have the support from head office.
Branko, very quickly, anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why you may be interested or looking at a franchise agreement is because the business plan is already there, right? What's required for you to do and how to do it, that's already done. So typically when you take those types of agreements, it really comes down to what's your backing, what's your financial capital going in is what the banks are looking for, and as you as an individual, right? Like, it's one thing to see something in paper, but then you have to be able to sell it and sell yourself and give them that vote of confidence. That was something that we had to do when we went through that process on the commercial side, and we did use RBC for that as well. So I think if you're not planning on going through a franchise, then yes, the business development plan is very important, just to help you understand what your plans are. Because if you're not planning on a monthly, quarterly, and revisiting that monthly and quarterly, and then annually as well, if you don't set your projections, what's the goal? What does the rest of your team understand that the goal of the company is for that year? Because if you're just kind of going on a day-to-day basis, you're not gonna grow. People are gonna realize you don't have a plan. People like to understand what your vision for the company is, right? Whether you communicate that through your daily meetings or what you decide to put up in the back of the lunchroom board. You have to clearly communicate that not only to your bankers, but also the people that are employed for you.
All right, good stuff. So we got a few minutes left. We'll maybe take some questions, but just to capture that business plan, I treat it as a roadmap. And you're starting, you build in what your goals are, your plans are. If you got investors or bankers looking at your plan, capturing their interest in trying to secure financing, and then using it, updating it. That's why I mentioned the living document, especially when you got more than one owner. My experience has been, you got two owners. Sometimes when they put it in a business plan, they realize there might be some differences in what their goals are. I mean, the common goals are there, but so it's neat. And one of the things I really support is kind of working on your business, not in your business. Because what happens is when it comes time to sell, if you're too involved in your business, it's going to create some challenges to sell that business. So that's back to empowering people around you, growing your team, so that when it's time for you to exit, it could impact your business valuation. We didn't get into business valuations here. I mean, typically it's a multiple of your EBITDA, earnings before tax, depreciation, amortization, and that multiple, for example, I do a lot of Dairy Queens. It's around 4.5, 5 times 2-year historical EBITDA as a quick number, and every one's just a tad different. Some are based on sales, okay, your total sales, so that's just the difference in the franchise banners. So maybe what we'll do, how are we doing for time here? We've got a few minutes left. Maybe let's take some questions from you guys.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, over there.
So I have a question about all three of you. How easy or difficult it is to get financing to open up your first franchise? If you don't have support, you don't have the capital saved up, and you are young in your career, and then there's particular franchising that you're interested in, and then how do you go about that?
Roman,
You want to answer, or I can?
yeah, well, I mean, I would just say for us, you're looking at a $250,000 investment, right? So you don't just look at the franchise fee as that's a small portion of your actual cost. So I think kind of to Roman's point, what it seems like that he and his group did there is they had that conversation with an employee. So if there's a particular business that you're wanting to open up a franchise, I'd kind of recommend that you go work for them. Let them know that that's kind of what your intention is, and perhaps there could be a partnership there, or unless you have family that you could put together enough equity in order to make that case to the bank that you're going to be able to cover 6 months initially, and establish a line of credit with them where they feel comfortable in giving you that equity loan.
I'll just maybe add to that. I know with us, out of the 1,100 banners operating, we've probably got about only 50 national programs. So the national programs with us are the large ones, like McDonald's, Wendy's, Canadian Tire, ones that have been around a while. But we will finance all the rest of them. But the national program ones they're pre-approved with the franchisor and with the bank. We have a group in Toronto. So they're a lot more smoother. And they're a little more generous, if you will, on the lending side, and the pricing is a little more competitive, okay? So, but typically on a startup, for a franchise, you're probably looking, for your first time in with no previous or minimal management experience, you're probably looking at that government guarantee program for your equipment and leaseholds. It works well for some of the smaller ones. When you get into the bigger ones, because of the 350 on equipment, it doesn't give you much capacity. And like I say, it's a little bit higher on the pricing side, but it does give you that first startup. Once you've got 2 or 3 going, we will leverage the other stores. So we'll do a business valuation, and then we can leverage the other stores' equity. And we work on a debt service coverage. I'm sure all of you, debt service coverage. We work on a 1.25 for most of our deals, at least. That 25% is your cushion, in case there's any bumps along the way. Any other questions? I know some of you have to. Okay, Go ahead.
So you all mentioned that you have business partners, and some of them have been family and both. So what would you say there's pros and cons to going in with family and friends? What is your guys' experience with that?
For me, I think I'm fortunate. It's been good. We have a very good understanding, me and my dad, and then me also, and our silent partner. But I have heard of it going the other way for other people. It really just, you have to go into it with a firm understanding of how you feel about each person's role, and each person has to do their role and can't conflict with the other person's role. And also, you know, from a personal perspective, leave business at the store and leave, you know, don't let it affect your personal life with family. And we've been able to do that, which is good, but it is something that you have to have defined roles, and you have to make sure that people are pulling their weight and that it doesn't cause conflict.
I've seen my two uncles went through it. It didn't go so good, and that business kind of fell apart. And that's the one store that we have now that me and my brother took over after. And now I see how they operated and what went wrong. And I try to be different than they were. I see my brother runs the one store, I run the other store. I let him do his thing. I don't want to be involved. I saw the conflict between my two uncles, and I just don't want it to happen to us.
You always learn something, hopefully, from someone else when there's some issues. I think as far as time goes, I'm not sure. I'll let you. I mean, I can stay. We can.
I think these guys will stay for a few minutes.
Yep.
If you wanna ask
I'm
them
okay if you guys are.
questions.
Stay for you.
We had a question over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
we're just out of time. So if you do have to leave late, but if you want to stay, stay. And we'll continue going. And then if people want to ask individual questions, you can do that as well. So go ahead.
I'm just curious, given the structure that, you know, most franchises have, how would you deal with someone who comes in who's very, they're an extrovert, they have a good imagination, you want to, you know, create and not just follow the path? There would probably be some challenges with something like that. Some business, not
Well, that's it, you-
Yeah.
follow a direct path.
If they're trying, if they're too creative for the system, it won't work. If they think that they can reinvent the system, it might work for a year or two, and then eventually both sides are just going to get too fed up. And there's franchise agreements, right? Like, it's a contract. These things have to be done. I'm sure, like, I haven't seen it happen, but I've heard of it happening. I haven't gone through it in my business. But at the end of the day, like, someone that is too creative to follow the system will end up just selling, and it just won't work. It has to be the right fit. So.
Yeah, I think for somebody that's creative, an extrovert, like you mentioned, there is Canadian Franchising Association. If you go to the website, there's a questionnaire. So if you got somebody wanting to start up, you know, franchise, you can go through the process, and if there's something there that kind of fits, then, you know, may be able to work. But if they're really creative and think outside the box, the franchise agreement is there for a reason. I mean, it's a recipe for success. So as long as the franchisee stays within it, and the franchisor has a lot of power, they can pull that if you go outside it. I mean, you'll get some warnings, but if you keep doing it, they're going to pull you on it. So if you're very creative and you want to go outside that box, franchising might be a little tough for an entrepreneur with that kind of skill set or mindset.
Well, I think it, you know, in the context of what you're, you know, suggesting too, like, you know, with the express model, like, yes, we have our franchise agreement, which kind of just protects to make sure that we're maintaining the brand, quality of the brand. But outside of that, we have the full autonomy to organize, create positions with our company, salaries, compensation structures. The great thing about our HQ is that they love getting feedback from us, and so if we're able to implement something on a local level, oftentimes that will be looked at as far as implementing that as part of our training that goes on. So I think it's just knowing the franchise that you're buying into. If it's a cookie cutter franchise, then yeah, if you have this entrepreneurial gene in you, then probably not the right fit. But if the franchise, you know, encourages and allows you to grow your business as you see fit, then, you know, that's definitely might be a great option for you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm understanding, most, if not all three of you guys have partners when you guys went into the franchise business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first question is, would you guys, if let's say if I was to go into the franchising business, would you recommend that I have a partner? Would you say that I should go in by myself? And if I should have a partner, what would you guys consider the ideal partner?
I think you should have a partner for two reasons. Like I said before, raising money. It'd be very tough, depending on the business and the capital required. But for one person, unless they just are sitting on a big bag of cash for some reason, it's tough, right? Also, the ideal partner is someone that brings skills that you can't bring, that can fill a role that you can't fill. And for us, that has been having a silent partner with a legal background that's invested in the business, that can handle the legal stuff, that can handle negotiating the leases with our landlords, negotiating with our head office, helping with financing, someone that brings that corporate expertise. And then we bring the operations expertise, the love of working in the kitchen, working with kids, running the store, getting out in the community, building business, that sort of thing. Because my corporate lawyer partner has never made a pizza in his life, right? But he's owned Panagos for 22 years, right? So it just, the roles have to work, and there has to be understanding going in.
Yeah, I think you're never going to be the best at everything, and you have to know your weaknesses. You want to partner with somebody that will complement your weakness. When me and my brother worked together, we were very successful at the one store. We separated, so you learn your weaknesses once you separate. You don't have that partnership after, and I think you want to find somebody that will complement your weaknesses.
Yeah, and I just make sure you share that shared value and vision off the get-go, and then talk about what happens when one of us is alone. I gotta have this conversation, and not just, we can't just talk, we have to utilize it for value.
Right, so that would support the unanimous shareholder agreement, USA. It's very important we have a partner to have that up front, a shotgun clause included in there. Because, up front, things may be good, but as time goes on, things change. So, you're better off to get that in place, and then it's there in the event something happens. Any other questions?
Well, thank you, everybody, I really thank you guys for showing up. You have no idea how much I'm thankful that you guys showed up. And that our panelists all made it today, and Myron as well. Thank you so much for helping us out. Without you guys, we're nothing.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you, and once again, sorry for being a little late, but we made it.
Thank you.